Hi there, abhik here. In this episode, I will discuss how to mock server responses and many more. However, I highly suggest you to watch the checkout flow video linked in the description before watching this video because I have already coded my checkout page and all the related pages and all the related components with it. But if you want to see a walkthrough video of this, then please watch my dedicated video on that topic. So let me explain this. Here I have created a component known as checkout, which takes the cart and refresh cart as props, and this cart and refresh cart is sent to our checkout page from my app component. We have some steps, and this active step is required for a multi-step form. This checkout token is required, so we generate a token and store it here. Shipping data is required because we want to fill up the address form, and then we want to store it in the shipping data. Here inside the useEffect, we generate a token of checkout token by using the cart's ID, and also here. And why I am using this cart in the dependency area? That is because cart remains undefined for a few seconds when we reload our checkout page. Right. So here is the steps area, which has two components: address form and payment form. And here we also have a function next step, which increments our active step by 1. And then I render. So I render the multi-step form if our checkout token is not undefined. If it is undefined, then I will render loading. Right. So let's see the address form first. So inside the address form, what I do is I will use the react hook form. So I've already imported that, and now I've also installed that. And address params is an array which objects are name, type, and which each object has a name of first name and type of text, email, or number, whatever. So it's right. And also I have a disabled and set disabled. Why? So that we can disable our submit button of that form. And this form has on submitting, we handle that submit using use forms hooks function and then submit, and then submit that data. The submit data is a function which sets shipping data to our checkout page. This shipping data. Now, for each address params, I render the form input, and also we have another component known as country select. What is the form input now? See, this is the form input. Now, country select is a big component, and here I have already included this commerce form select and useEffect instead. What I do here is I have created two loading states, which I will explain later. So I have created countries array and selected country, because we want to have selected country for whose we will page the subdivisions, and also a selected subdivision for whose we will page our shipping options. And the first useEffect, I check if checkout token is not undefined. Then I will fetch all the shipping countries with that checkout token's ID, and then I create a new array with the response dot countries, and each array has an object whose code is key, and whose code will be that country's code, and name will be that country's name, right? And then I set that to the countries. Then I set selected country as the country's first element. The first element's code, and also I set value. Set value is, if you remember, set value is the address forms we get from React hook form. And what I do here is I have 3 selects. So all the selects are named by the country subscriptions and shipping options. So the first select is country. So I set I set the country's default value as the first country's code. I also catch it, and this has an empty dependency array. So the next one, we have this set disabled and set loading. Why we need that, I will explain that later. So here also what I do is inside the second useEffect, I check if selected country is defined or not. If it is defined, then we fetch all the subdivisions using this checkout token.id and the selected country. And then whatever the response comes, we map that response.subdivisions as a new array. Each object has code and as the subdivision's code, and name as the subdivision's name. Then similarly, I set the subdivisions, I set the selected subdivision as subdivisions array's first elements code, and I also set value in the select text as with the name of subdivisions as subdivision arrays first elements code. Right? And this has a dependency useEffect has a dependency array of selected country. So whenever the selected country changes, we call this useEffect. And similarly, the third useEffect also has these two lines, which I will explain later. And whenever the selected subdivision is we check if selected subdivision is defined, then we fetch all the shipping options with the checkout token ID, country, and the region. Then we get the response, and this response is an array. So we map all the elements of that array and create new objects for each element. Those objects has element this code and the name, and then we get the shipping options. Then we save those shipping options, and then we set the selected shipping option as the same format, first elements code, and also I set the value of shipping options as first elements code. Now I catch the error or console and then I set the initial loading as false, loading and disable state, and this useEffect is called whenever the selected subdivision changes. Now here comes the initial loading. So initial loading was initially true, but then after I fetched the initial loading was initially true. After I fetched the countries and then the subdivisions and then the shipping options, then after I have fetched all the three, then I set the initial loading false. So when the country select component loads for the first time, it will see the users will see fetching country, subdivision, and shipping options for a few seconds. Then when all the three are been fetched, it will show form selects components. Now each form select component is designed for each option. That is, one is for country, one is for subdivision, and one is for shipping options. Now let me explain the loading states first, then I will explain the form selects one by one. So what happens is when I fetch the countries, when I change, say for the form select we have two countries, India and Bangladesh. So I change from default value is Bangladesh. So I change from Bangladesh to India. Then what will happen is we will show these loadings, fetching subdivisions and fetching shipping options. How? See, when we change the countries, we will call this useEffect, and this useEffect we set the loading as subdivisions. So when loading is set as subdivisions, triple equals to subdivisions, then we show the fetching subdivisions instead of this form select. Then after we fetched all the subdivision, we will set a selected subdivision over here. Now, since the selected subdivision is changed, what will happen is this useEffect will be called. And the useEffect, the first line is set loading as true. That means the loading is no more subdivisions. No more this condition will satisfy, so we will show the form select, right, instead of fetching subdivisions. But here we have another condition, that is loading.length greater than 0. Now we are setting here the true as a string value, and you can set any name as long as it has its length is greater than 0, that is not an empty string. Then this condition will satisfy, that is the loading length will be greater than 0. Then it means that fetching shipping options. So when we change our country, it will not only show fetching subdivisions, but since loading's length will be subdivisions which is greater than 0, so it will also show fetching shipping options. Now when the subdivisions is changed to true, that means subdivision has been fetched, then also its length is greater than 0, so it will show fetching shipping options. Now after we have fetched the shipping options, we set loading as empty string. So that means now loading's length is not greater than 0. This condition does not satisfy anymore, so we will show the form select of shipping options. Now, while we are fetching this data, we set disabled as true. So in this button will be set disabled when we are fetching the data. So when we are initially fetching this data, we set disabled as false, and after the shipping options is fetched, and that means countries, subdivisions, and shipping options all are fetched. Now we can not disable our button. But when we change this country, that means our subdivisions are again called. So that time we will again set disabled as true, and also when we change our subdivisions, then this shipping options is called. So we set disabled true here as well. But we set disabled false only once when we have already fetched all our shipping options. And when we have already faced our shipping options, that means we have faced the countries, subdivisions, and shipping options all. We are not having any asynchronous task in our useEffects anymore. So that time we can show this disable button, right? Now let me show you the form select. So what the form select does is it takes a title, so it uses it as label, HTML4 and ID for the select. It has an array, so to map these options, register, just similarly like form input and callback. So what happens is when we change our option, when we say for countries we have Bangladesh and India, and I change from Bangladesh to India, we need to have a callback which this options target.value, that value is the code, will be set. And what is that callback? This callback is set selected country. If we don't set our selected country, we don't change our selected country, then how will this useEffect be called for subdivisions, right? So that is why I am passing, and that set selected country or set selected subdivision is named here as callback. So we start whenever the select text have a change event, then we event default that event, and then we call back this pass this e.target.value. So inside this set selected country, the new set selected country, the new country set will be the new country's code, right? Inside this payment page, I am already accessing my props, that is shipping data, checkout token, and refresh cart. And I have also created some loading states. Also, I have imported use form here as well, and we will use this use form for and we will use the handle submit register from the use form. Okay. So here what happens is shipping charges is a constant variable which, after it gets the checkout token, it checks all the shipping methods. Checkout token has a shipping methods array which has both the shipping method objects. So we will check that whose ID matches with the shipping data's shipping options. That is the shipping data is the address forms data we have passed, and this data also has the shipping options. So whatever shipping options the user has selected, we will check that the ID matches with those shipping methods. We will return that shipping charges, right? And here we have the pay now function, which I will discuss later. And here we have the order is not undefined, then we show something, otherwise we show this. If order is undefined, then we show this. Now when we click on the, after we have filled up the address form and we click on the next button, then our order will be undefined by default. So during that time I will show the shipping data, first name, last name, all the address that he has filled, then the items he is buying, the user is buying, that is the line items formatted with the quantity, price and the name. Along with that, here I will show the total price, total checkout token live total formatted with symbol. What is the total price he has to pay along with the shipping charges. And here we have error, which I will discuss later. Also we have this loading. I will come back to that later as well. So here we also have this form. After he has seen all this, there is this form for card details. So when he submits this form, it has number, expiry month, expiry year, CVC, postal zip code. And when he clicks on the pay now button, this submits this form, and our React form handles that submit and calls the pay now function. What is that pay now function? That pay now function is this function with this card data. Now when we click on the submit button, what happens is the loading is instantly set, so we don't show this form anymore. We show wait while we process your data, right? So let's discuss the pay now button now. So what happens is the loading is set to true. And why do we save this error? I will come back to that later. So we have an object with the format of order details, where the format of line items, customer whose email, first name, last name are written like this, shipping, and this name primary is very important, and then the address one, town, city, country. Now this is a format I found in the commerce.js docs, so make sure you look at that. And then we have also another object that is fulfillment. There we have the shipping method, which is the shipping data, shipping options, right? Then after we have created this object, what I do is I capture the checkout with the checkout token ID and the order details. And the payment for this tutorial will be test gateway, and the card, this card data's number, this pay now is the card data. So when we submit this form, whatever the data we've submitted, that data is, I am naming that data as card data over here. So that card data is number, expiry month, expiry year, CVC, postal zip code, like that. And after we have captured, now it will return a response or it will catch an error. If there is an error, and inside that error we also have a data object. So I just destructure that and get the data, and data.error.message is what we set as error if there is an error. Otherwise we set the order. So when the order is set, that means order is no more undefined. That means it will show thanks for ordering. The orders has a customer object whose first name and last name will be shown, and the order also has a reference ID, that is the customer reference ID, that is very essential. Also how much he has paid, so the order has another object known as order, that has a total object that is formatted, right? And this will show the total of with the shipping charges. That is, suppose here we have total will be 1070 rupees and the shipping charges is extra 10 rupees, so these will show 1080 rupees. And what if and why did I use this error here? So suppose we have the error, so we show the error message where here we show the error message, and then our loading is set to false. Here you can see, so that means our form will be shown once again. So when we have error, I will resubmit our form, and when I resubmit our form with correct data, as soon as I click on the pay now button, this loading is shown, but this error will remain persistent. This error will not be gone unless the error is undefined. Now the error we have set while we cached our error, but we are not setting it undefined when we submit our form. Yes, we are setting it undefined when I call this, otherwise it won't happen. So that is till now payment gateway. And if you still want a better walkthrough explanation, then I recommend you watch my dedicated video on that topic. So we have done till now. What I will do is I will now open up my browser and see what we have done. So when I open up my browser, you can see that I have no items in my cart. So I will add some items. So I will add monitor and gaming mouse. Also let's add this keyboard. So you can see that we have 3 cart items now. I will increment it by 1. That is incremented by 1. So now I will go to checkout page. Total price is 1085 now. You can see that step 1 is getting shown with the first name, last name, and these countries are getting fetched. And after the countries are fetched, you can see 3 country subdivision shipping option is shown. So what if I change my country? Normally it is not showing the countries because we have I think gaming mouse should not be here. Now let's go to the checkout page. You can see the loading here. Then the form is getting shown and fetching countries is there. The next button is disabled. Then I can change the country. So if I change the country, you can see fetching subdivisions, fetching shipping options is getting shown. And after a few times, when the shipping options have also been fetched, we see this. And also one more thing, notice that the button is disabled during that time. And if I change my shipping option subdivision, then also my button is getting disabled for a few seconds. So I'll go with India. I will go with Delhi. That's it. I will fill up this form. I filled up this form. Now I will click on next. Now you can see here it shows address, email, city, zip, country code, subdivision code, and what are the items I am buying, like that, right? And the shipping charges is 0, like that. So here I will give the details. So I will give this. Here is the 16-digit number. And remember, while using the test gateway, only this number will work as the card number. Now I'll click on pay now button. As soon as I click on pay now button, you can see wait while we process your data written. And after a few seconds, you can see step 2 is getting shown still. Thanks for ordering, your order reference, total payment of this is done. So till now I have done this, and you can also see that my cart has been refreshed. And one more thing that I forgot to tell you is here if I go to my payment page, here we are refreshing our cart as well. Why? After this checkout capture is successful, the commerce.js will delete that cart. Okay, so we need to refresh our cart over or on our front end manually, otherwise we will have different errors. So with that being done, now inside this form directory, what I will do is I will create a new file known as test file, and that name will be address form.test.jsx. Right. So now here what I will do is I will first import React, then I will import the render and all. So I will go to the tests folder and I will copy some stuff like this and user event. I'll copy those and paste this here. Right, save this file, and then I will start with the describe block. The describe block's description will be address form, and here we will start with our test. In this arrow function, I will write my first test, and that will be renders the address form correctly, renders the form fields correctly, and then I will start writing my test. The first step is to render our component. For that we need to import our component as well. So I will import that, and our component takes some parameters, right? What are the parameters? I need to open up my address form. Parameters are checkout token and shipping data. So let's do those, and checkout token and set shipping data. So checkout token, what I will do is, for now I will pass an empty object which has an ID, which will be any ID. That right now I will give it an ID of, and it also has a cart ID. We don't need that, but still I'm passing it. And this set shipping data is a function, so for now I will pass just.append, a mock function. Okay, so now we'll start expecting that it shows the form fields. What are the form fields? Mostly form inputs, then the form selects. So let's start. Screen dot get by role, screen dot get by role, or get by role text box, because there is no role of input. If you can see here while I'm scrolling, but there is a role of text box. So with the name of first one, will have a name of first name, because we can see here that these are the names: first name, last name, address one, email, city, zip. So I will try all those. I will copy this one, and this one will be last name. The next one will be city, next one will be email, the next one will be address one, and the last one will be zip. Now let's start running our test. So I will open up my terminal, npm run test. But what I want to say here is I will pass here double hyphen, then single hyphen and t, and then the name of that describe block. Why? Because I want only this test to run. For that I will only this test suite to run. So for that I will pass this one, this flags with the t flag, and let's see it in action now. So it will take some time. As you can see, my test failed. Why did the test fail? The test failed with this zip. So till address it was okay, but with the zip it failed. Why? Let's see that. You can see here, or unable to find the accessible element with the role of text box and name of zip. What are the roles found? Text box, first name, last name, address one, email, city. Spin button zip. Now zip is an input with the type of number. So to get a type of number by role, we need to use spin button, right? Now that is something you can learn from. I knew this earlier, so I wanted to show you that if you don't know what role to get, then you can do something like you can pass a wrong role and then it will show an output of what roles you get, and from there you can find out the correct role, right? Now like this, I have also known that we should get by role, we should actually find by role, since in the address form it actually loads country select, actually loads for a few seconds. There is this loading for a few seconds, and after that we show the selects. So what I will do is I will here copy the same line, but instead of get by role I will find by role. Find by which role? Find by role of a combo box. Combo box is what we call select here. Okay, and the name of it is country. Now for this to actually happen, I need to keep an await as well. I'll save this and let's see it in action now. My test should fail, and it failed. Okay, so while we are using this await, we need to also give async over here. And then let's see, our test still should fail, I know that, but still let's see it. My test still fails. Why? Because here it now cannot find a combo box with the name of country. Now here it is rendering the HTML, and you can see that this loading option is still getting shown, but after a few seconds the loading should not have been shown. Why is the loading getting shown over here? That is why it is unable to find role combo box. Why is the role this thing getting shown over here? It's loading still. Wait a second, how do we get the countries? When does this loading stop? So to understand, so why does this loading is still getting shown? So to understand that, what we need to do is we need to understand that when does this loading is set to false, that means this is getting shown. So it is set to false over here, that is after we fetch the shipping option. Now here comes the question, is my component then fetching the countries actually? I am rendering here the component with a checkout token, and this checkout token is made up. My and this cart ID, both are just made up by me. Those are not original checkout ID. So is that is why maybe it is not fetching this. So that is why maybe our countries are not getting fetched. Here you can do one thing, that is you can pass here correct checkout ID, but we don't need to do that. What we need here is, see, I read an article somewhere, so let me show that article over here. This article says stop mocking fetch. I read that article and I highly recommend you to read this article. Here it says that we should not mock fetch or our API client and test, and what to do instead. Now you should read this article to understand why we don't need to fetch our API here. But the correct response is, suppose, so I'm just giving a brief explanation. Suppose our API response, actually API servers are down, or due to some error the APIs return some error. That is on their part, not on my part. I am sending correct data, but they have their problem or bug. That is why they are sending a different response. So who are suffering? We are suffering, and our tests are suffering. As I have said earlier in a previous episode, that we should not call our API data while tests, and we should actually mock that. So how to mock that one? First thing is I will install MSW. So close this server, test over here, and run npm on double underscore save dev MSW. Then wait for it, it will save this. Now inside the mocks folder, I will create a new folder known as server. Inside the mocks folder, and inside the server folder I will have two files, server.js and handlers.js. So inside the server.js, what I will do is I will import setup server from MSW/node. Inside the handlers file, I will actually create a array known as handlers, and this array, let it be empty for now. I will create that later on, fill it up later on. So I will save that and I will import it here. Then I will create a server variable and I will set up my server with the handlers. So triple dot handlers. So whatever these handlers array will have, all of them will be passed over here as setup server, and then I will export this one. That's it. I've saved it. Let it be empty for now. What I will do here is, here I will import that one, server from mox/server/server. That's it. After that I have imported it, what I will do here is I will create two. One is before all, where I will listen for the server. I will listen for the server, and let's run our test for now. Don't worry if you don't understand, I will explain those as I show you. Our test still fails, but we are not concerned about our test right now. What we are concerned about is this MSW warnings. So here you can see that this is the API which we call for to get all our countries, right? So here what we need to do inside the handlers is, and before doing anything to the handlers array, I will actually import rest from MSW. After importing, what I will do is, inside this first thing I will do is rest.get, since this one is a get request, and I will also copy this API, then blindly paste it here over here. As I have pasted it, what I will do here is I will close my terminal once again, and after the string, what I will do is I will create an empty function, array function, arrow function, and this array function will have three parameters: rec, res, and ctx. Okay, and this what we will return is res, that is the response, and inside this response we will have ctx.json. This returns a JSON response, and inside this JSON response we will return an object. That object will have countries object, and inside that countries object we will have. Now I already know this because I have already seen what the response looks like. So here I am passing the response as like this. Now let's see. So let's rerun our tests, and it fails miserably. We are just returning the countries, but here what happens is, after we have fetched all the three, that is still shipping options, all the shipping options, countries, and subdivisions, after we have fetched all of them, then only our loading options will go away and we will see these selects. So to do that, we need to fetch all of them, the shipping options and the subdivisions as well. How to do those? Open up your terminal and you can see this countries/bd/subdivisions. So that means this is how we will get the subdivisions. I will use this one. Just blindly copy this one. Ctrl C, and here you can see a comma. So I will just copy this same thing till here, and instead of this I will pass my API route. Instead of BD Bangladesh and IN India, I will have the states of Bangladesh. Now I will not return all the states, I will just return 2 or 3 states. So instead of countries, I will have subdivisions, and delete these countries over here, and you can see BD05, and I will remove this BD also. I am passing 3 subdivisions over here, and after that is done, now our terminal will have error for shipping options. So let's see that. So here is this shipping options, helper/shipping options. So I will copy this one, close this one, and I will pass it after this. I will copy this one once again, and the API route will be that one. The API route I just copied for shipping options. Now shipping options is not an object. I know that it returns a response as an array, so I'll convert it to an array first, and then instead of subdivisions I will pass a mock response that I just saw the original response and just created. This is the mock response I just created, and this is for India, but we should be passing this for Bangladesh, so this should be T, and this one should be international. That's it, and this one should be 10. That's it. So now it should not show any warning, rather it should show yes. You can see that our tests have now passed. It takes some time, but it is passing. So what I will do is I will close this and I will just run the test for address form once again to see that it is passing or not. So you can see my address form test is passing correctly, no doubt in that, but it is taking some time, but still it is passing, right? So what I will do here is, now I will explain you once again. What we do here is, since we are fetching our data from our commerce.js server, so what we do is, we inside this test, we pass some checkout token, and then here we create a server, mock server. That mock server is what we start listening before our tests. We run our test, we start listening to that mock server, and that mock server handles this request. Whenever these requests are passed, it handles those requests and returns a mock response. This mock response is what they return. So countries, for countries it returns a response of countries, it returns a state response, it returns this countries as a response. So you need to make sure, you need to first of all use those original response, see the original response, and use them as a reference to create the mock response, right? And when we get our mock response, then we can find this await screen.findByRole combo box country. Now like that we will have subdivisions, similarly shipping options. Note the hyphen over here, because in the original country select we have the hyphen over here as well, so please make sure of that. And we have subdivisions here instead of subdivision, so that is why I passed subdivisions and shipping options. If I save this, my test should still pass. You can see here that my tests have passed correctly. So when we are done with this, now I will write my second test. What will my second test be? So my second test will be country select works correctly. Now I am not creating a separate test file for testing the country select, rather I am testing that here itself in this file only. I will save this and I will start writing my test now. I will start this as an async function and will render the country select, but inside the country select we need to pass some props. What are those props? The props, the first prop is checkout token. This will be same. Then we will pass set disabled, which will be a jest function, set value, which will also be a jest function, register, which will also be a jest mock function. All of these three are mock functions. Okay. Now here we will see that our country select works correctly. So for that, what I will do is, first things first, I will wait that we see our country. So I will do something like country select. This is something we will wait for. Now if we use await, I have passed here as async. Await screen dot find by role. Find by role dot combo box by the name of country. Then what will I do? then I will wait for the and why I am giving them names, you will understand this just a bit later. So I will copy this one, and instead of the country I will wait for the subdivisions. And here also I will write subdivision select. Select. Now another one for shipping options, and here also I have to pass the shipping option. Now after we get the value, we will expect that the default values will be set. So the default values are, so I will expect that country select dot to have value. What is the value it should have? What is the value it should have? So see here, the mock response we are passing for country is BD is the first one we are passing. So I will expect that Bangladesh will be the value that it has. Second one will be subdivision select. What is the subdivision select should have? See here we have the 05 as target hard, so I will expect that it should have 05. And the third one is shipping select. Shipping option select will have a value of, what is the value it should have? This should have the value of this ID. Remember why this ID? Because we are setting the code here is this ID, and the code in turn inside the form select, if you see, the code is the value of each option. So we are setting the first option, we are setting the code of the first option, we are setting the first option as the default option. So for that it will have the code, and that is that ID. Have value, that ID is what I will copy here, and I will paste that here. Save this. Let's see for tests are passing or not, and you can see my test is passing. So I will close my terminal now. Now that is okay, but what I want is I want the user to change these options, okay, and check them. So this is like a mini integration. This is like with changing the options and seeing that whether our subdivision. So I will change, the user will change the country, and we will check that whether our correct subdivisions are getting loaded or not, whether correct shipping option is getting loaded or not, right? Getting displayed or not, right? So for that I will use user event. I have already imported user event. You should also import user event, and I have also imported wait for user event dot select options. Since this is a combo box or a select tag, so to select those options inside the country select, where will he select the option and what option will he select? Second option that has value of IN. Now you will need to pass the value explicitly, okay? So remember that. And what do we expect? We will again wait for our subdivisions, because remember here after in the country select, what happens is after we select our country, then it will change our country, then it will show the subdivisions for a few seconds and fetching subdivisions, and then it will show the select, because here whenever the country changes we set the loading, right? So for that I will use this subdivision select variable subdivision select and change this from constant to date, also from this one as well, because we cannot change the value of a constant, but we can change the value of a date. So I will reassign this value once again, and then what will I expect? I will expect that our subdivision select should have a different value. Instead of 05 I should have something like a different state. But here is the question, that is, when we change our subdivision, won't our handler have a different call? See here, when we change our country, or when we have Bangladesh as the default country, subdivisions we get fetch also has a BD over here, right, in the URL. So when we change our country to India, won't our API call have API route have IN over here? Yes, it will have IN over here. So then it will not respond this one. It will be a different route. So for that, I will have another API route mock response, and this will have Delhi and Andaman. I will just copy this one, change this from BD to IN, and instead of the subdivisions over here, we will pass these subdivisions, right? I'll save this over here, and here I will expect that it should have DL, because DL is the default value. So, and also this country select also we will expect that it should be IN. So let's see if our tests are passing right now or not. My test is passing, but still we have some warning over here, act warning. Why is that happening? That was not happening previously because we were awaiting for the shipping options, but this time it is happening because, let's go to country select once again and see here, after we set our loading to subdivisions here, we set our loading back to its empty state only in the third useEffect. So we have to wait for the, and this loading actually affects our display, right? Not only these subdivisions are affected, but the shipping options is also affected. So we can either await for this element to be removed, or we can wait for this element to be shown once again. So what will I do? I will do here is, I will copy this exact same line without delete. See here, yourself. I've copied this exact same line without delete, and then our test will have no warning. Now, it might be hard for you to understand, so I will close this one and I will restart our test. As you can see, there are no more warnings. Alright, so you can see that there are no more warnings anymore. So what we can do here is I will close this terminal, and here, see, we were expecting that shipping options should have a value. But what the problem here is, if we expect the same thing, this test will pass because our handler is returning the same shipping option, that is international for both of us. That is, if it is India, then also it will show the shipping option as international. If it is Bangladesh, then also it will show international. Why is that? That is because our handler is having only one response. Now here this URL does not have any BD or IN so that we can modify it. See here we had this BD and this IN, so we could modify different responses, but here we don't have that also. So how do I then modify the response? I will go here, because in reality what happens is for Bangladesh it will have international, for India it will have delivery. So to do that, what I will do is I will get constant query, which is rec dot URL dot params dot search params dot search params, and with the query what I will do is constant country, that will be query dot get whatever the query we want. Now how do I know that the query should be country? See here in the country select, when we fetch our data, here we pass country as the selected country and region as the selected subdivision. So I can assume that here also it will have a country over here. And so what will we do with the country? If our country is IN, which is the code for India, then we will return a different response. Otherwise this response is fine. So I will just copy this one and I will paste it here. And what will be the different response? Let the ID remain same. I will change this to delivery, and the price will be 0 instead of 10. It will be just 0. And remember the country here should be IN. and here we will actually modify my test. So instead of to have value, what I will do here is it can have any value, so I will remove that one and I will actually screen.getByText international, and here what I will do is I will copy this same line and here I will screen.getByText delivery. I will save this and now my test should pass. Here. Now my test should pass. I will rerun my tests and it is actually why, because delivery hyphen is here. So let's do that correctly. Hyphen Ctrl R. See, now my test should pass. Now you can see my test is passing. There is no problem with that. My tests are passed correctly. Now the last test that I will write for this address form is whether it submits our address form correctly or not, whether it sets the shipping data correctly or not. So what I will do is I will actually copy this test. Okay, from beginning to end I will copy this test and I will paste it here. It will render address form and we will give name to all of them. So I have named them all, and what will I do here? Now here I will start using user event. So the first one will be user event.type. Why type? Because we will type inside a text box. Normally we will type inside a text box, right? So I will type in the first name, I will type the name, let's say John. For the last name I will type the name Doe. I'm mimicking a user here, right? He fills up the form and I will expect that when we click on the next button, it will have that, it will call that with the shipping data we are typing correctly, right? So username will be first name, Doe, okay, it should be last name actually. And this one will be city. And we don't actually need to give it a name. So I will remove that name over here. And then what I will expect is also one more thing here, this jest function, instead of having here as a jest function, what I will do is I will copy this line and I will cut it here, and for passing it I will give it a name. It will be a jest function and I will pass the shipping data over here. Now I will expect shipping data to be called, but it will be called after I click on the button, right? So it will be called after I click on the button, right? So I have to write user event dot click what? Screen dot get by role button whose name is next, and now I will expect that to have been called with inside that object. I will pass this data. I will pass this data and I will save it. And why this shipping option is having same ID? That is because if you see the handle here, we both of the shipping option have the same ID, whether it is India or whether it is international. So that is why I am having this. Let's check if my tests are passing or not. Okay, so it fails. Why? You can see here the reason, and it actually shows the states of Bangladesh instead of subdivisions of India. Why is that? Okay, I actually, in a bit of hurry, I actually did a mistake. That is, after I select my country, then will I have to wait for the subdivisions. Okay, so I will copy this line here, cut it, and I will paste it here. And after I get my subdivisions, I will select the subdivision, and the shipping option is not needed to be selected. I will actually move this line also above, because after we select the subdivision, then also we can have to wait for the country. Now DL by default will be the, you can see here that DL is by default the subdivision, so I can change it. Instead of selecting it, I can change select Andaman. What I will do is I will change it to AN. I will change it unknown over here and over here. Shipping option will remain same. Let's save this. Now let's check our tests. Now here what I can do is I can wait for, because our tests are failing, and I can wait for the shipping data to be called. So what I will do is I will wait for, and say that package, I will move this directly, cut it and paste it here. Also one more thing, I did a mistake here. It should be subdivisions, and instead of shipping options like this it should be shipping option like that. I need to pass it inside the brackets, then inverted commas. If I save this, now my test should pass correctly. Wait for it. You can see now my tests are passing. So let me show you all the tests one by one, and while I am showing this, I will click on A and press A, and it will run all the tests. And now see the test. We don't need building, so I will remove that one as well. We just need render screen and wait for, and you can start seeing the tests. Also one more thing I want to say is, here instead of before all, we will also have one more thing, after all. After all, we close our server, because why do we need to keep open our server when we have done the tests? So now I will open up my terminal and let's see if my tests are passing or not. You can see the address form test takes some time, and you can see that 5 test suites have passed and 17 tests total have passed. All of these tests have passed. In the next video, I will be writing integration test for checkout page. Also one more thing, I will paste this line over here after each server.reset handlers, and this line is what I got from this article. So remember to keep this article read, then you can understand a lot more things. And also this is required because after each test has passed, we will reset those handlers of our server, right? So if I save this, and now if I check my tests, all my tests should have no effects on this. You can see all my tests have passed. Thanks for watching this video, and to all my subscribers, thanks for supporting. See you in the next episode.